Like, imagine if I put $1 million on your head at a high interest rate and then said, now start a business. It's really, really tough.
Student loans, $37,313.
Yes, sir.
Is that deferred?
Well, until right now, yeah.
If you take house debt, you still have the house and you can always sell the house, but you can't sell your student debt.
Worst comes to worst, too. You've got the amazing capitalist thing of bankruptcy, which I know it sounds bad, but you can't bankruptcy your way out of student loan debt.
That doesn't count? You can't do that?
You can't declare bankruptcy and have your student loan debt go away.
Okay, I would go...
You got to do the math, but yes, there is a point in which it still makes sense to go out in the DSO. I mean, what did it say, 120 months? That's 10 years. Is it worth 10 years of your life to finally get that all paid out if you're not happy with your job and or location?
They felt that this is a platinum of MasterCard that they could just rack up.
Welcome back to another episode of Dental Marketing Theory. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the owner of SMC National, where we help offices just like yours level the playing field against the big guys out there so you can grow the way that you want. But you can't grow if you're drowning in dental debt, and a lot of people are. And today I have my friend, my co-host, and somebody who is an amazing entrepreneur, Tanner Applegate, who is the founder and CEO of Unify. And he has some feedback that he's going to be giving us on some clips. But I'm excited to have Tanner here. We used to host a podcast together. I don't know, are we going to eventually get that fired back up? It was fun recording with you all the time.
It was good. Yeah, no, we need to. I mean, I think that things are settling down at Unify. We got to pick that back up again.
Awesome. So I loved our interactions, but at the very minimum, I need to have you on here more often. But I would love to get your feedback on this topic around student debt, because it's a popular topic. So I'm going to play this first clip and get your feedback on it. So this is actually from an old podcast. Did pretty good. It got 356 views on YouTube and also on the platforms. And then we had a viral clip on one of the shorts that from it as well. So let me play this for you.
Day one. You can pay down that debt if you're earnest about it, okay? And a lot of things I'll tell you is that a lot of our students have failed in practice management when they accumulated debt during dental school because they felt that this is a platinum of MasterCard that they could just rack up, okay? I mean, I used to go to the amusement park, on my spring breaks, okay? And they're going to Rome and Paris and Italy, on their spring breaks, okay? So, there's a little bit, how do you say it, of fluff in that dollar value as well. But there's ways of paying that back. And I have to tell you that it's more about creating the perfect opportunity and not to have the struggle in being productive right out of graduation. So if you are aligning yourself with a DSO or a public health clinic, I have to tell you, you can pay down that debt in no time, nor should anyone ever consider not going into medical or dental school because of the impinging debt. My own daughter is graduating from veterinary medicine school this year, and I have to tell you, she totally embraced it, and there's opportunities for her to pay back her loans. And quite frankly, there are ways. And all you have to do is have that energy and passion to do what you were intending to do. And like I said, some want to own their own clinics, but some just want to practice dentistry and get the paycheck and do a nice job and walk out, which is fine.
Okay, he also touches on another part of it where what he did, he actually went into public health. So he went in and there was loan forgivenesses around public health because he entered into that side of it. So that was kind of the background of that clip there. So what are your thoughts there?
No, I mean, I think it's true that the part that stood out to me is this whole idea of like where he's like, I'm going to this for spring break and these guys are going to Rome and Italy and such. Like, yeah, I think a lot of that is a classic trick of like, oh, I've got this degree that I'm going to get and therefore my lifestyle is going to be worth a lot more. And so why not just like take a little bit of that lifestyle in the future and start enjoying it now? I think that's such a trap. And that's exactly why you get these people that like 30 years into practicing are still paying off their debt at these ridiculous interest rates that they don't understand how much more they would have had if they didn't have all that debt.
So the simple rule here is don't spend what you don't have.
Don't spend what you don't have. I mean, there's just such a mix on this. It's crazy to me how some people treat it as if it'll never come back to bite them.
It does. It does. It makes it really hard to be successful in business when you have debt hanging over your head, especially big lump sums. And a lot of people, they have the $500,000 in student debt, and then you take the business debt, and it's really hard to be successful. I mean, you've launched a successful business. If you guys haven't checked it out, check out Unify.dental, and you had to bootstrap it, and it's hard, right? Like, imagine if I put $1 million on your head at a high interest rate and then said, now start a business. It's really, really tough. Okay. So this next one is Kevin O'Leary. Some people love Kevin O'Leary. He's from Shark Tank. Some people don't like him, especially around the crypto stuff that he got caught in, where he was recommending certain cryptos and they dumped and people lost all of their money. So this is I haven't forgot about that one. So let's see what he says about student loans. This is on CNBC.
Let's talk about student loans. Most people find themselves between the ages of 24 and 26 with student loans. That's a debt. Now, if you're lucky and you get a job, you should pay that loan off in 36 months if you can do it, which means you're cutting back your lifestyle significantly. You're spending up to 40% of your paycheck just to get rid of it. Why? Because it's a very nasty thing to have hanging over your head for a very long period of time. It's generous at the beginning, but over the long term, that interest really adds up. You want to nip that student loan in the bud. It's $60,000, sometimes $80,000, but you can get rid of it in 36 months if you spend up to 40% of your paycheck. I know it sounds like a lot, but really smart people figure this out pretty quickly, and they focus on getting rid of that debt. Because if you're lucky enough to have a job, you want to do it while you're employed. But the minute you establish a lifestyle and you start going out for dinner and you start dating or you get married, all of a sudden you have all kinds of other expenses, not necessarily just paying off your loan. That's why you want to pay your loan off as fast as you can, before your lifestyle starts to really creep in on you and make you spend more on things like vacations and dating and dinners. And when a child comes along, all of those expenses. Get rid of that student debt right up front while you're young and frisky. That's the time to do it.
Okay, so this goes back to your last point of people, not spending what they don't have, but then also this also changes kind of the strategy coming out of dental school as well, right? Because should you be opening up your own practice right out of dental school when you're trying to pay this off, or should you go work somewhere else? And as you're working, just put most of your paycheck towards paying off your student loans.
I mean, if this were me coming out of dental school, knowing what I know now about the dental industry, buying offices, being able to turn it around, my approach would be this. I would go and I'd work 2 to 3 years at the highest revenue DSO I could find, right? Forget about location, forget about what percentage of collections they're going to pay me. All that stuff doesn't matter. You just got to say the top line, how much revenue are other associates like me coming in and producing? And then from there, is it highly probable that I can replicate that? If the answer is yes, then great. You'll get your speed up with that. After those 3 years, you'll have watched a little bit of how to run these offices. You go and buy your first practice. You run that practice for 3 years. You'll make a ton of mistakes and a ton of issues. Don't buy it in your ideal location, right? Don't buy it where you want to retire forever, because once you sell that practice, you'll have a 5-mile radius of non-compete. So after 3 years, you should have it 3 to 5 years. You should have it humming and running really well, that you can then sell that for a high valuation. All of your loans and plus will be paid off. You can now move to where you want to retire, where you want to spend the rest of your life, and buy the practice that you want or build the practice that you want from there, and then just kind of run it off into the sunset.
That's really good. I love that. Where would you buy your practice? Where would your retirement practice be, Tanner, if you were going to do that?
Oof, God, that's exactly why I had to do a remote job, Gary, is because my wife and I are not consistent enough to have a eternal life.
Same. I people are like, could you ever go and just get a job somewhere? And I'm like, I could if it's work from home. You know what I mean? Right. I have to work from my house. I've been working from home for too long. Okay, here we go. This is a good one here. Listen to this one.
Student loans, $37,313.
Yes,
is that deferred?
Well, until right now, yeah.
What's the plan on that?
They're at 4%, so Minimum monthly payments till they're paid off. I feel like it's a waste of $37,000 to just throw it at it if I'm going to get average 10 point whatever with dividends reinvested in the S&P 500 on average.
Wouldn't this be nice just to wipe out?
But the student loans, you'd pay them off?
I probably would. Because I think financially, yes, you could arbitrage your money and you could make the 8% while you're paying out 4%.
So you're talking emotionally.
I just think, yeah.
So it would emotionally weigh on you. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think if it emotionally weighs on someone and it's a low rate, then I'm like, do it. That, I feel nothing with it existing. Nothing.
I'm also a hypocrite because I still have my Tesla Model 3 loan that I took out, but it was at like 3-something%. But I could deduct that because I use that card for driving around.
Just to frame it, I think you get it, Tanner, but just to frame it for the audience, make sure everybody understands. He's saying, take whatever your interest rate is and pay the minimum payments on the interest rate, get it paid off in whatever time. So if your interest rates are at, this was recorded a while ago, but let's say it's at 6-7%. If you can invest your money in something else and get a higher rate of return, like a business or like Bitcoin,
the goal is predictable rate of return, Gary.
Yes, predictable rate of return. So, which Bitcoin's been the highest returning asset over the last decade or something like that. But anyways, so not financial advice. What do you think? Like, what would you do something like that personally, or would you recommend somebody else do something like that personally, or is it like, no, just get that bad boy paid off?
The only debt that I'm adverse to is student loan debt. It is a personal debt that doesn't go away ever, right? And so for me, I think that I would get, no matter what it is, even if I could guarantee a 10% rate of return in another investment, yes, I know that I'm technically throwing away dollars there, but I would still just be paying off that student debt as much as possible.
All right, there you go. I like the way you're thinking about that too, because like if you take house debt, you still have the house and you can always sell the house, but you can't sell your student debt. So that's
worst comes to worst too. I mean, like I always play the worst case scenario. Worst comes to worst, right? You've got the amazing capitalist thing of bankruptcy, which I know it sounds bad, but you can't bankruptcy your way out of student loan debt.
Ooh, okay. That doesn't count. You can't do that.
You can't declare bankruptcy and have your student loan debt go away.
I didn't know that. Okay. Good stuff. All right. That's why we do this podcast.
Otherwise, you just graduate school and then just declare bankruptcy right away. No one's making money right when they get out of school.
That makes sense. Yeah. You have nothing. You're like, okay, bankruptcy. Oh man. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense why you can't do that. All right. Here we go.
The final option for paying for dental school that I wanted to talk about is public service loan forgiveness. Dr. Dolly writes, under this program, a student who makes 120 on-time monthly payments on qualifying federal direct loans through a qualifying program such as the Federal Income Driven Repayment Program, while working full-time for a qualifying federal, state, or nonprofit 501c3 employer, will have any remaining debt forgiven tax-free. This is something that you will kind of need
Okay, so this is to your last point. You said, okay, I would go and work for the highest grossing DSO that I could find. Would that be better than going and working for a state insurance program like a Medicaid office or maybe there's a like an Indian reservation or something like that, and then having all of your loans forgiven after so much time?
You got to do the math, but yes, there is a point in which it still makes sense to go out in the DSO. I mean, what did it say? 120 months? That's 10 years, right? And is it worth 10 years of your life to finally get that all paid out if you're not happy with your job and or location? And honestly, I think that by working at those nonprofits, they kind of lulls you into a sense of security from a practicing perspective where you're seeing 2-3 patients a day in the morning and then maybe 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Obviously, it depends on which place you're working, but it's very slow pace. And so, yes, if you were to go and do that and then try and go and switch out to a regular job, you are going to be hampered in your dental ability.
I agree. That is such a good point that it's good that you're giving back, but it could trap you in a way that you're not going to learn things that are going to help you for your next practice. So that is a good point. Okay. Last one. This one should be good. Some Dave Ramsey.
Sweetheart, what is going on?
Do not let guys like Dave Ramsey shame you about your debt. Most people have it, and his snowball method actually makes you pay more over time. Let me explain. Dave likes to use something called the debt snowball, which is where you make minimum payments across all of your debt, but then pay down the smaller balances first and move on to the larger balances. I prefer a debt avalanche, which is where you make minimum payments across all of your debt, but you pay down the highest interest rate debt first. This is largely going to be your credit card debt because they have interest rates of 22 to 25% annually, whereas something like student loans or your mortgage may be closer to below 7%. Just by switching the order of your debt repayment, you can cut down the amount of time it takes you to pay your debt back and save thousands of dollars in interest.
So I'm sure you've heard of this before, but basically paying off your lowest debt first. So let's say you have 10 debts that you owe, and one of them's for $5,000 and the highest one's for $250,000. No matter what the interest rates are, you pay off the smaller ones first because there's a psychology behind just getting rid of those, right? But what she's saying is, no, you start with the highest interest rates first because that's more financially just wise to do. So what do you recommend, or how would you approach
it? I agree. Start with the highest interest rate. I don't want to be throwing away money just because of my mental game of I paid off this one and now I have 25 more.
Okay, so that's good. I'm the same way. I'm going to go with whatever saves me the most money. So that was good. What did you think about this? This is a new style that we're doing on this podcast. What did you think about the React series?
I like it. No, I think it's good that you came pre-prepared with a lot of different things. I think you are active enough on social media and get enough engagement on your posts. I thought you were going to ask questions of things that you had surfaced from a group of people via social media. That would be interesting to me.
That would be cool too. So going into Facebook and saying, hey, what would you like to know about paying off your student debt? And then asking you those questions.
Or I would honestly just say, give me your hottest take on student debt.
Ooh, okay. That's actually a really good idea. Might do that. All right. Awesome. Well, Tanner, and then tell us a little bit, how can people find you and what do you do? Tell us about what you do at Unify.
Yeah. Having been previously built and sold 2 different DSOs, my background is in the dental operation space, right? As an operator, I was very much passionate about efficiency. And one of the things that was not efficient was my team trying to share usernames and passwords on things like spreadsheets or writing it down on a notebook. I mean, it would waste hours within a week of time. And so Unify Dental, we are a password manager, single sign-on built specifically for the dental. We are the best in the space in order to help your team not waste time on annoying things like getting locked out of accounts. So you can check us out, Unify, www.unify.dental. We are happy to help you.
Awesome. Go check it out. Highly, highly recommend. Take care.